History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. For centuries, empires have risen, dominated the globe, and then, inevitably, declined. From the marbled halls of Rome to the vast colonial reaches of the British Empire, the pattern is eerily consistent. A golden age of unparalleled power, followed by a slow, creeping erosion, often from within. We are not talking about sudden invasions or catastrophic natural disasters. We are talking about the subtle, almost invisible shifts in economic policy, cultural cohesion, and fiscal discipline that, over generations, can unravel the mightiest powers. What if the very forces that built these empires also contain the seeds of their destruction? And what if, by examining their fall, we can see a reflection of our own present, and perhaps, a glimpse into our future? This is the story of the empire collapse pattern. Let's rewind. Ancient Rome, a republic turned empire, dominated the Mediterranean for centuries. Its legions were unmatched, its infrastructure awe-inspiring, its currency, the denarius, a global standard. It imported vast wealth, built roads, and spread its laws. This was a golden age of stability and expansion. But beneath the grandeur, seeds of decay were sown. Overexpansion led to unsustainable military spending. The silver content in the denarius, once pure, began to be debased to pay for endless wars and a growing welfare state. Inflation, a silent killer, began to erode the purchasing power of its citizens. The gap between the ultra-rich and the impoverished masses widened, fueling social unrest and political instability. The very act of maintaining an empire became its greatest burden. Centuries later, Spain inherited a global empire built on conquest and the vast mineral wealth of the New World. Mountains of silver from Potosí poured into Seville, making Spain the richest nation on earth. Its fleets ruled the seas, its territory stretched across continents. Yet, this influx of silver, rather than strengthening Spain, ultimately crippled it. Historians call it the Spanish paradox or the Dutch disease. The flood of precious metals caused massive inflation at home, making Spanish goods too expensive to compete internationally. Domestic industries withered. Instead of investing in production, Spain became a rentier state, dependent on a finite resource. Its wealth was consumed by lavish courts, religious wars, and an ever-expanding bureaucracy. By the time the silver mines began to deplete, Spain's economic foundations were hollowed out, leaving it a shadow of its former self. Its reliance on external wealth, rather than internal innovation, proved to be its undoing. Then came the British Empire, the largest in history, where the sun literally never set, built on naval power, free trade, and the Industrial Revolution. Britain forged a global economic system. The pound sterling was the undisputed reserve currency. Raw materials flowed in, finished goods flowed out. London was the financial capital of the world. But the 20th century brought two world wars, financed by debt. Maintaining such a vast empire became a colossal financial drain, stretching its resources thin. Decolonization, while morally inevitable, further shrunk its economic base. More subtly, Britain's industrial advantage eroded, complacency set in, investment in new technologies lagged, while other nations, particularly the United States and Germany, innovated faster. The empire's very success had created an inertia, making it slow to adapt to a changing global landscape. The cost of empire eventually outweighed its benefits. Look closely, and a common thread begins to emerge across these fallen empires. It's rarely one single, cataclysmic event. Instead, it's a constellation of interconnected factors that act as slow poison. First, fiscal irresponsibility and debt. Empires overspent on wars, on welfare, on maintaining their vast apparatus. This leads to currency debasement, inflation, and unsustainable debt. Second, overexpansion and imperial overstretch. The more territory, the more resources required to police, administer, and defend it. Resources that could be invested domestically are instead siphoned off to distant lands. Third, internal inequality and social decay. The widening gap between the rich and poor, coupled with the decline in civic virtue and a rise in corruption, creates internal instability. The social contract phrase. Fourth, economic stagnation and complacency. Relying on past glories or easy external wealth, empires fail to innovate. Domestic production suffers, and they lose their competitive edge. Fifth, loss of faith in institutions and currency. When citizens lose faith in their government's ability to manage its finances, or when their money's value collapses, the very foundation of the state is weakened. These aren't just historical footnotes, they are warnings. Now, let's turn to the present. The United States. Since the end of World War II, It has been the undisputed global superpower. Its currency, the dollar, is the world's reserve. Its military unmatched. Its innovation, from Silicon Valley to Hollywood, has shaped modern culture. A new golden age. But are we seeing the familiar whispers of the empire collapse pattern? Consider the national debt, currently over $34 trillion and climbing rapidly. This debt is being financed by ever-increasing deficits. Like Rome, the USA maintains a massive global military presence, arguably stretched thin across multiple theaters. Inflation, while cyclical, has been a significant concern, eroding purchasing power. And like the British Empire, there's a growing concern about industrial decline in certain sectors, with a reliance on global supply chains that prove vulnerable. The economic base is shifting, but is the innovation keeping pace? Or are we experiencing a rentier effect through dollar dominance?